Hi there, and welcome back to the 72-hour Home Inspectors Training class presented by EHI Training. Over the next 72 hours, we will do our best to teach you how to become a home inspector. It will come in 2-hour webinars, and this is our first. This first webinar lays the foundation of becoming a home inspector. It tells you the requirements, things that you'll have to do, and how the whole industry got started. By now, you should have all the literature you need to take this course. I look forward to hearing from you, hearing your questions during our Zoom meetings. Again, my name is George Lopez. I will be your instructor, so let's get started. Okay, so here we are, EHI Training 72-hour Comprehensive Home Inspector Training and Certification class. You will mostly be looking at slides from here on out, and we'll turn the music off to make it easier for you to understand me. And I will be taking breaks, so you'll notice some stop and go along the way. But we're going to breeze through it as fast as we can possibly breeze through it. And here's the first slide. This slide, you've probably already seen in the introduction class, into the introduction video. It talks about what will be covered in this training. And the first one is industry standards. Standards were put together by the American Society of Home Inspectors. This industry began back in the 60s, and before that, people kind of just relied on their own knowledge. They would, bounce around on the floors, open and close windows, and along came this industry, and it got organized. Like I said, the American Society of Home Inspectors was very instrumental in doing that. There's other associations that are also working in the industry, and you'll hear about all of them during this class. But for now, we'll just keep moving. All right, reporting formats and usage. We're going to talk about the methods used to translate information to the client and to the realtor and to the seller, who at the very end of the line will make the decisions whether to make repairs, compensate the buyer for some of these issues that you as a home inspector will find. And, so that comes as part of the usage, but all of that will be part of your instructions. It's basically the report and how the report is used. And again, we'll dive into details with that later. Structural components, what holds up a house. We'll get into the nuts and bolts on all this step by step, but just briefly, you pull up to a house, you want to look at it, you want to make sure it's not falling over. You want to always be safe. So walking into a house, one of the first things you're going to notice is it structurally sound. Does it look sound? You would not be surprised on how many times we walk into places and we're not concerned about whether we're going to fall through the floor or not. And that's bad. When you become a home inspector, you tend to be a little bit more weary and a little bit more careful because you've seen things. But as a novice, you don't always worry about the structural integrity of a home. And mostly because there's codes. I mean, thank God, the United States is very organized when it comes to creating codes and safety requirements for buildings. And that goes all the way from a house. Heck, a doghouse can have specs, So anyway, then we'll talk about exteriors, which is the siding, the soffits, the fascia, the paints. A whole lot of things are on the exterior that wouldn't be considered part of the structural components, although you may see it, you're looking at it, but you're really focused on the exteriors. Roofing, here's a situation that has changed over the years. And when you're first coming into a home inspecting, you want to be gung-ho. You want to say, look, I'll climb up on your roof and I will inspect your roof. But the industry has changed since the advent of drones. I actually don't even carry a tall ladder anymore. And there's good reasons for that. During the winter months, roofs freeze and they're dangerous to walk on. They thaw out in the spring. You have a short window when you can walk on them if they're safe to walk on. And then comes the summer. Summer gets really hot, and you don't want to walk on shingles anymore because you can damage them. You don't want to walk through a roof that's got soft plywood. There's a lot of reasons for not walking on the roof, but from time to time you'll get a homeowner that will call you and go, well, the other guy said he was going to walk on roofs. I'm guilty of that. When I first got into the industry, I would tell people, hey, I'll walk on it. The other guy's not going to. It was a way for me to get work, and it was very effective. But I fell on the roof, not hard, but I've slipped on roofs before, and haven't been a builder. I've been on roofs a lot. Not afraid of climbing on a roof, but the drone does such a good job. And there's methods of knowing exactly whether the plywood, the sheathing is good or not. We're going to talk about all that later. Plumbing. Different types of plumbing are available in a house or are used in a house. There's public water, public sewer. There's private septic systems, private wells, and there's actually community wells also, and community septics. We'll talk about all of them. You won't see those very often, but we'll talk about it anyway. I've seen community septic and community wells maybe 2 or 3 times in over 3,000 home inspections that I've done. The electrical system. There's a lot to talk about there. This is a very high safety issue, high importance to safety issue. So you're going to want to learn as much as you can here, and what you don't know, you're going to research. You're going to maybe have an electrician that you can call and ask questions of. The internet's great. AI is pretty awesome. So there's a lot of tools out there that will make you a better assessor of electrical systems, and we'll talk about them in details. Heating. Well, we know that's pretty straightforward. The house is cold and you want to heat it. There's different methods of heating a house. Hot air, hot water, and wood burning fireplaces and what have you. Excuse me. Central air conditioning, that's usually heat pumps. There is air conditioners that have a boiler on the heating side, and then on the cooling side we'll use cold air, and those sometimes are converted over to heat pumps, and heat pumps are very popular. They're very good. They've done a good job of bringing them along, and they're actually the most popular systems that you'll see. Evaporative coolers. These are mostly used in the South, and we'll talk about them. Again, something that I never see. Home inspections and evaporative coolers are used commercially a lot, or in the South, and they kind of use water to cool the house. All right, interiors covers pretty much anything inside. The doors, the inside of the windows even, sills, trim, paint. Not painting so much as that paint is an ugly color or is fading, because we don't talk about cosmetic issues, but paint could be lead paint. There's issues that could have come because of paint. So that's going to stuff that you're going to worry about. Insulation and ventilation. Insulation's in the walls and in the attic. So you'll not see all of it. You'll see some of it. You'll know by the age of the house. The type of codes that went into building this house will help you along the way. And then there's thermal cams. I use a thermal cam a lot. I like it. It doesn't always give me information that I want to relate to the customer, but it gives me a really good idea of what's going on in the walls. And actually, even the handheld thermostat will help you along. If you point the thermostat at the floor and the floor says 55 degrees, you point it at the wall and the wall says 75 degrees. That's a big disparity in between the two. So you'll want to have the right tools for determining how the installation is, and you'll make recommendations. You don't say tear out the walls or anything. You just let them know that, maybe the installation isn't as perfect as it could be. Ventilation's typically in the attic, so in the crawl space. So we'll be talking about that. And again, we go back to fireplace and solid fuel burning appliances. Those are wood burning stoves. Okay, well, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, this is a new class. There's a lot of talking. 72 hours is a lot of talking. So I will make mistakes from time to time in how I'm calling something out. Like I called the thermometer a thermostat, which it isn't. It's a thermometer is a thermometer. But anyway, I don't want to go backwards and edit all the video that we've done. So I'll just try to correct things as I go along. And I'm going to pop my head in here so you know that you're not alone. I'm not just a recorded voice, and I'm actually doing this class with you. And so let's do this one with my face in the camera. And I'm going to read through what the slide that you have in front of you. Again, I'm getting over a cold, so I apologize for the coughing. So to ensure your success, it is very important that you have the right tools. Tools are everything in anything that you do. I mean, if you're a surgeon, you got to have good scalpels and whatever tools they use. I'm not a surgeon. I faint at the sight of blood. But anyway, so you want an industry recognized reporting system. We're going to provide you that. It is there's different types of systems out there. Some of them are you purchase and you get a template that is on their website. Sometimes you can buy it standalone. We've been in business for a long time, so we had problems. Originally we bought our product from AHIT, and then that product was discontinued. So our database was left dangling in the wind, and we've made some serious efforts to try to recover all that and create our own system. And the reporting system that we have now is just a template. It's created on Microsoft Word. You can convert it over to a PDF and send it to the client. There's new ways of relaying information also. There's video you can use, but you can even send video through the email now. So if you wanted to attach, sometimes you may have a clanking noise or a fan that wobbles. And it's nice to put a video on that that kind of demonstrates it. But I will tell you this. Everybody's tight for time. The realtor doesn't want to spend countless hours looking at video. They want information from you that's concise. And to be concise, you will put together lots of pictures. I typically take like 250 pictures per inspections. Sometimes I've taken 350. So there's a lot of pictures, there's a lot of explanations, and more importantly, there's a summary. A lot of times the realtors will just grab the summary, or the client will grab the summary, and there's ways that I tell them to treat the report. I tell them to use the summary as a wish list of everything that they want repaired, and then prioritize and put prices next to each one of those items to help them in the negotiating process. Remember, we're giving them information, but we also have to tell them what to do with that information. We want to be as helpful as possible. We don't want to make the decision for them, because who are we to make that decision? I mean, if I wanted to buy a house that's got a garage that's beautiful, and I know the house is not so beautiful, but I'm buying it for the garage, I'll let things go in the house, but I want to know what it is that's there. I don't want to know what's there. And the inspector, you, will be the one that does that. So that's where we go to buying reporting software, or even create your own report. We've created our own report. Use the quality and the latest tools. The tool list, the list of tools that you have are not extensive. I have like a little doctor's bag. I have the different types of tools do different types of jobs. Like, for example, lead paint testing. There's inexpensive ways to go. The lab provides you with a lot of the testing items, and then they charge you for the tests themselves, and they don't charge you for the swabs and what have you. But then there's also XRF guns that will read lead-based paint right there on the spot. Those are very expensive. You could pay as much as $25,000 for one of those guns. But that is for somebody that's doing lead all the time, and it's a certain type of lead paint training, a lead paint testing that you'll do, and it's usually done for landlords, and that's a fairly narrow business. You want to have everything in your quiver, but your mainstay will be home inspections. Professionally designed brochures and business cards. That's an old line. You can go on Vistaprint and create pretty awesome looking stuff. We do it all the time, and it's easy to reorder because it's on Vistaprint. Even signs for the truck, the magnetic signs, we have them on Vistaprint. When one gets dinged up or something, we order new ones. Keep your truck clean, keep your tools clean, keep your signs in good condition, nice new tires on your truck. You don't want to show up with a jalopy, or you will look like a jalopy. Maintain a professionally designed website. Another place where there's a lot of options. We do our own. We use software called Drupal. There's a big learning curve there, but there's GoDaddy, and there's a lot of services that will create you a pretty simple website for not too much. You'll have to pay to maintain that, and we will do that. If you come to work for everyday home inspections, you don't have to worry about none of that. You don't have to worry about brochures. You don't have to worry about signs. All you have to do is worry about your your hand tools, and even we do hand-me-downs. Anyway, so use marketing strategies proven to work in the home industry. There's a lot there, a lot to unpack. When I first came in, they were pushing like buying chocolates and taking them to their offices, the realty offices. Knock on doors. It's definitely number one. You want to be seen. You want to meet them. You want to explain to them what your capabilities are, what your background is, and my background's construction. I was in construction for a very long time. I can smell a house, as they say. You don't need to be in construction your whole life, but you do need to have good eyes. You need to be thorough. The less you know, the more thorough I want you to be. I want you to go step by step. We also have a list that we use for marking down information, and it gives you a path through the home to all the locations that you're going to go. You go do them the same way every time, and you will not make as many mistakes as you could if you jump around. We're going to talk about distractions and all that other stuff later on in the class, but I think this pretty much covers what you need to have to ensure that you're successful. Work for a successful company or become a successful company yourself. Let's move on to the next class, the next slide. Okay, without my face in the camera, and we're going to speed it up a little bit. I have to do 20 of these tiles per 2-hour webinar. We have a total of 700 slides for this class. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot of information presented to you. Okay, so why are homes inspected? First, it provides a peace of mind to the buyer and the seller. Lets the buyer know what he's buying, and it lets the seller know that the buyer knows what he's buying. So if it keeps everybody happy. It's nice to know that the buyer is doing his part to ascertain the information he needs about the house. Because sometimes the seller doesn't know everything. Sellers are just living there. Sometimes they only lived in the house for a year, and there's a problem that's been there 5 years. Anyway, so it provides a written overview to assist in the decision-making process. As you already know, you're going to present a report with a summary page that's going to give them all the information that they need in a format that's understood by all parties. It is a risk management tool for the realtor. That way the realtor can, rest easy that he didn't tell his buyer to buy something that's bad. And any responsible, honest realtor, which they all are, be honest with you. I've never worked with a bad realtor. They will recommend a home inspection. It's up to the buyer to decide to do it or not. And some buyers don't need to because they're contractors or they're buying an investment property and they know exactly what they're buying. In today's market, with being a seller's market, it's more and more that people don't call us. I mean, the market has really slowed down a lot, and that will come around. So, rest easy. We're not going anywhere. People need home inspectors. It can help satisfy disclosure laws. Again, letting everybody know what's going on. It's an eye-opening device that can even work to help in the price negotiation, and that is how you earn your keep. I mean, you charge $500 for a home inspection, and you save them $10,000. You do the math. It's hard not to earn your $500, and I'm using that as a number because typically that's what the average home inspection and it costs. It could be less. Condos across the street are less than a mansion on the other side of town. So know your pricing. Be consistent on your pricing. Do not gouge because a house is $2 million. If the house is 2,000 square feet, it's 2,000 square feet. That's how I like to do it, and that's how the company does it. So that way, our realtors know exactly what to tell their clients. And anyway, it promotes and facilitates communication between the parties. It lets everybody get on the same page, and everybody knows what they're getting at. And it's a much easier transaction. Everybody ends up being happy, even if they didn't get what they wanted. They know that they did it in an honest, responsible way, and we're the vehicle for that. And I'm very proud of what I do. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so what makes you a qualified home inspector? Proper training, such as this class and many other specialized training classes. This is just the beginning of your training. You'll learn forever, and you'll leave here. You'll want to do radon. You'll want to do lead testing. You'll want to do mold. You'll want to do water testing. There's just a lot of the sewer tests, private septic systems. I'm certified for all that. I don't do it all, but I'm certified for most of it. You got to have good people skills. I like to make the inspection fun. You want to get confident enough that you don't make mistakes, you don't make a joke out of it. But people like to have fun when they learn easier. It's okay to make a joke. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to, ask them what they do for a living and talk to them about their lives. Get involved. I mean, it takes just as long to do a bad inspection than it does to do a good inspection. The difference is that a good inspector is paying attention. He's writing it down. He's walking around. He's disarming everybody. And along with good people skills, you want your client to be part of your team. So you have 2 eyes and you have 2 other people there with you. That's 6 eyes. Don't get offended if they find something that you didn't see. Learn how to deal with that, because there's nothing wrong with if you're looking over here and they see something over there. It's good to document everything that is there. Take lots of pictures, and then like we'll talk about report making later. Anyway, have common sense. Obviously, paint being the wrong color or these people aren't clean. Just be careful in what you say. You have to say things that are real, that are happening, not something that you think is going to happen. Subjective instead of objective, or the other way around, whatever. You want to comment about what's there. You want to have the ability to observe. So sometimes you just got to stop, look around, see what you're seeing, understand what you're seeing. And if you have to make things happen, make them happen. Like if you got to turn the water on to hear a knock, turn the water on and hear that knock, turn the water off. Take the time to learn what you're looking at, to understand what you're looking at. You should have an interest for homes, obviously, and that includes commercial properties, whatever you want to get into. Have an interest in it. Don't just do it because you're going to get paid. because nobody needs that. Have an eye for detail, and we talked about it, all that, and just learn to see it. And the more you do it, the more you understand it. It's come to the point where I show up at a friend's house and they go, okay, don't look around. Don't tell my wife everything that I need to do, because they don't want to know everything. But a client does, okay? So just remember that. And no, anyone with flashlight and YouTube does not know, cannot be a home inspector. But anyway, a home inspector will look in YouTube from time to time, so don't let them tell you that they don't. I do it. When I need to learn something, YouTube is a great tool. Even though the commercials kind of get on my nerves. AI is it's coming along as a very helpful tool without the commercials. And we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, I'm really liking this recording software. It's Logitech, and it does a really good job. Anyway, I'm out of the picture this time. Who will be present at the inspection? Buyers and their family, almost always. There's always parents. When they're young kids, parents are usually there. And, I always make a joke. I charge more for the parents being there. But the parents, especially the dad, nothing against moms, but the dad can be your buddy. They always have the best interest at heart of the buyer and will help you along. So always make sure that, always ask for the buyer to be there. Sellers, I prefer that they're not there. That way you can you can be frank about the house. If there's something that you think is hokey, which is my favorite word, when something doesn't seem right, I just go, that's kind of hokey. I try not to be disparaging, but I will always ask the buyer to be there. Sometimes too many kids can be a problem. Be careful with distractions. Have fun with the kids. Kids can be a blast. I like having kids, but so I've had 6 or 7 kids where there's sisters and brought her kids, and everybody's in there and they're all pulling on you. Hey, what's this? What's that? Don't be afraid to say, hey, I need a little bit more, I need a little more focus on this so I don't make any mistakes, and they will totally understand. So again, the sellers could be there. Both the buyers and the sellers agents are usually there. Almost always is the buyer's agent. Sellers agents don't want to be there. They understand each other. They work together with the buyer's agent. They're in the same industry. They don't want to be there. But sometimes they are. And when they are, you got to recognize the fact that maybe they're worried about the house and put a little emphasis on what you're looking at and what they're excusing. Sellers will usually excuse things. Like you'll go, oh, that door is broken. Well, I'm about to fix it. Or, well, that was already broken once I got it. That doesn't matter. Don't comment on it. Just write it down. And I can't say, maybe one attorney's been there since I started this career. I can't even remember if that's true. So, let's see the next slide. The different types of inspections. You got a pre-purchase inspection, which is when somebody's selling a house to another person and the person buying it wants to know what's going on with the house. The seller will usually give them like 5 days. I've seen as little as 3 days, and I've seen as many as 10 days, which are awesome. But typically 5. So that means you got to get in there in the next couple of days. You got to do the inspection, and then you got to have the report back to them to give them time to respond to the seller. So, you don't want it on the last day unless it's their fault. They couldn't see you for 3 days and you only have 5. They'll go, okay, we'll take it on the last day. But don't be surprised if in the morning you get a call. Hey, when's that report going to be done today? All right, listing inspections. That's when I'm selling my house. I want somebody to tell me what's wrong with it. I want a report. So I can take that report and give it to the buyer and say, look, this is what I found and this is what I repaired. I'm selling it as is. Or sometimes, you can also have an inspection to have 2 people looking at it. Listing inspections are a lot of times done by the son or the daughter of a person that was put in a home that didn't live there and wants to know what's going on, doesn't want to get taken advantage of. So they want to prepare, they want to prepare for it. Pool and spa, log and mobile homes. There's, all that is part of your inspections. Pool and spa is another webinar that we will be doing after this 72-hour class. Log and mobile homes we'll also do. We're going to have webinars for all this. We're just in the process of creating these videos. So look forward to getting more instructions from us on all these issues. Insurance inspections. Don't do a lot of them. I don't reach out to insurance companies a lot, but I could. There's litigations. Those I've done, and I've never had to go to court. I typically would tell them $100 an hour from the time I leave my office till I get home on the day of court. So they put that, you ask for a retainer for that day, maybe like $200 in case they cancel on you. You get to keep that money. But it's up to you to decide how you work all that. We have our rules, and we like to stick to them. New construction, there's different phases of constructions. One of them is when they do the foundation, then they frame it, and that's usually the framing and the pre-closing inspection. That's before they close the walls up and put insulation in. That is a very specialized inspection. We'll talk about that more later. But then you have a final. That's when the house is done. The builder's turning the keys over, and they'll call you to come in. Those aren't that one is, believe it or not, it's not as important as a 1 year or 11 month. That means that before the warranty's up, you come out, and there's a lot to learn about warranties. We also do arbitrations, so we're well versed on the arbitration clauses and warranties. So when we do new home constructions, we let them know what their warranty will and will not cover, and we try to get them a heads up on things to do. Single item like a foundation, FHA, VA loans. Those are different types. They require different types of inspections. Draw requests. Those are lender. When somebody's doing construction on the house, the lenders will call us and have us administer the loan. Termite, mold, indoor air quality, water, and FEMA. FEMA, we don't do that much. I used to do them when I first started, but not that much. It's just a questionnaire that FEMA asks, and that's typically when there's a disaster. Indoor air quality is mold. Water is water testing. Mold is, again, mold, indoor air quality, and that's spelled incorrectly. It's IAQ. And termite inspections. Typically, the termite guys will do that. We've started to do them more and more because we like to be a one-stop shop for the realtors. And then you start with a general, and then you add more as you get comfortable, and all of it adds money in your pocket. Deliver the report. There are methods that can be used to deliver the report on site. I don't like that. I like taking at least 24 hours to put the report together. We stopped delivering on site. There was a time when they started to push that. These companies that were selling the software were like, oh, you can do it on the same day. You don't want to do that. You want to go back to your office. You want to look at the big screen, and you want to take time to write down the proper verbiage for your reports. Remember, reports are time sensitive. Ask how many days you have to deliver the report. Work with your realtor. Sometimes you need 2 days because you have 8 inspections in the next 2 days. Realtors will understand that. If you can't, then you have to work late and get it done. There's no excuses for not delivering a report within time. All right, so deliver when it's needed. 24 hours typical, but reasonable time frame for a good report. And a reasonable time for a good time frame for a good report. Again, that's true. I can do it in 24 hours. I try not to overschedule myself, but I have, had 2 or 3 inspections in a day. The more comfortable you get with the realtors, the more the more they trust you, and the more they know that you're trying your best, they will work with you. Be proactive. Ask questions during the inspection. Remember, you're in charge. You tell them what you need to happen. Don't let them distract you. And realtors will continue to work with you if you do a good job. There you go. All right, we're going to stop here and go to the next one. I'm back. Okay, so control the inspection is next. Explain to everyone the procedure that will be used. In other words, this is what I always start my inspections the same way. I start on the curb. I look at the house from far away. I explain to them the street. It looks good, wide, might need to be done soon. Go through all that. Then I look at the house, the lines, and then I go, before I get close to the house, I go, we're looking at it from far away. We're going to get closer so we can look at the house in detail. Then we're going to go through the kitchen, the living room, the whole first floor, the second floor, the attic, and we're going to finish up in the basement. That lets them know the order, and they won't pull you into the basement because they'll go, he's coming here last, and it lets them know if there's a problem in the basement that needs to be addressed, by all means, jump down there, look at it, and then go right back to where you were. Do not skip your order. Stay on point. Let them know that the order prevents mistakes. Use the same order always. Let the client know what is and isn't included. Remember, you're doing an inspection, but other eyes can help you. So the point is to be thorough. And let them know that you're not going to be doing the septic system. You're not going to be doing the low voltage, and we're going to get into all that stuff later. But there's things that you're not going to do, and it's just as important to let them know we're not doing this. You may want to hire somebody to do that. Know as much as you can possibly know about your job and what your job isn't. Keep the inspection moving. Inspections for me are like 2.5 hours. I've gotten to the point where a 4,000 square foot house takes me as long as a 2,000 square foot house. Why? The rooms are bigger. There's probably, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms instead of 3 bedrooms. But bedrooms don't take that long. And 3 hours is not bad. I've heard of inspectors taking 7 hours. I've heard of inspectors taking 5 hours. Nobody wants to be on the house doing a home inspection for 7 hours unless it's a 12,000 square foot house, in which time you should probably bring another friend with you, another inspector you work with or somebody from your office, and split up, the duties, because, we're all getting old here. And but you want to be thorough. And I've gotten to the point where I can be thorough. I can keep moving. I can stop and make jokes. Stop and talk to somebody and have a conversation with them and keep moving. So just keep track of what your time is. Look at your watch, but don't look at it in a way that they think you're not giving them the time. Just look at it so you know that you're on track, and keep walking and talking. How to reduce your risk. Let the report guide you. It is your map. Okay? Use the report. What's in the report has to be filled in. If you fill it in, you'll be okay. If you don't fill it in, if you leave blanks, you're not working for us. Proceed line by line, develop a flow, and you will be more effective. Communicate clearly. I have a problem with that, but that's because I mix my words up sometimes. But both verbally and in writing. And this is where AI comes in handy. You can put in a phrase in the AI and tell it to give you a more concise way of writing it, and they'll spit out a nice sentence for you. You'll be amazed on how good you sound. So the internet is available in your phone. Sometimes I'll ask somebody during the inspection, hey, I don't know where this boiler, I've never seen this boiler before. Look it up for me. And you keep working, or look it up yourself. But most of the time, there's some of the young realtors especially, they're on their phone researching as I go. Sometimes they're like, oh, that's that and that. Don't get offended. You can't know everything, but you can learn everything. Okay? So always research things that you don't know. Call a mentor. Use the associations. You can always ask questions of the associations. I have my favorite. I don't want to talk. Well, I'll say ASHI's my favorite. I think there's other ones that do a more expansive job, a lot of information, but I'm old school, and so I go with that. Don't be an alarmist. Don't go, oh my God, I can't believe this is going to, don't. That's ineffective. If you see foundation that is leaning one way or the other, you can say, you need a mason here. You don't go, let's get out of here, the house is going to fall down. If it's going to fall down, you're going to leave. But almost everything has a repair. Everything. I mean, it's unbelievable how little there is that can't be fixed. So knowing the fix will make you more effective. You'll communicate better. You'll be giving information and not alarms. All right, back to how to reduce your risk. Stay within standards of standards of practice and the scope of the report. Carry all necessary insurance. Yes, by all means do. Errors and omissions is very important. It's not required in Maryland. You're only required general liability, your auto, in workers' compensation for multiple inspectors. Excuse me. But if you're working by yourself, you don't need workers' comp either. You can just write off that. Just you don't have to carry it if you're the only person working for yourself. And this is very important. You cannot do an inspection without a signed agreement. I have not ever done an inspection without a signed agreement. 3,000 plus inspections, 3,000 plus agreements. If they don't want to sign it, sorry, I have to leave. The agreement protects you, and I mean every single one. Lets your insurance company know that the people that you're working for understand your limitations, because there's limitations. We're not opening up, everything. We're not going to service the heating system. We're going to evaluate it. We're going to say it works or it doesn't work. With something's wrong with it. It makes a lot of noise. It hasn't been serviced for a long time. There's so much you can do without having to be a service guy. And then again, back to begin in the driveway with your presentation and set yourself up for success. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so continuing on how to reduce your risk. Educate yourself. It is your responsibility. Use the internet. Use association continuing ed classes, bulletin boards. Read the Journal of Light Construction. A code book will be very helpful. Let me see. Let me put this in here. This one I own, and I always keep up with it. We do a little bit of construction on the side also, so nothing for our clients, just for ourselves. We always like to know what's going on, and join the associations. Again, ASHI, NAHI, and NACHI. You look them up. I'm not going to go too deep into them. And most home inspection licensing laws and associations have continuing education requirements. Now, you don't need to be in an association to do continuing ed. You can do continuing ed. There's a lot of different places that offer it. And one of the things that we found out is that we have different certifications, such as lead, that requires us to do a refresher course every 2 years. We do water. That requires us to do we have to do so many recertifications that kind of satisfies our licensing, our continuing education. And then on top of that, there's other places that we get information from. And one of them is the insurance industry. So anyway, that's that. Just stay on top of your education. If you're working for us, we're going to make sure you're educated, and we're going to stay on top of you to make sure you continue to get educated. So just remember that. All right, practice doing home inspections. Offer free home inspections to your friends. At the beginning, absolutely. During this class, you will do inspections. You're going to come probably over to my home or one of our other inspectors' homes, and you're going to do a free home inspection for them. So you can pick them apart and let them know that, hey, your own house doesn't have things that needs repair. And that's not unusual. I mean, yeah, we look at things and we go, we'll do that next week. But anyway, offer free home inspections. Inspect your own home. That's always a great place to start. Know your reports inside and out. Do ride-along with other inspectors. You will do ride-alongs with us. And it's required. It's required here. It may not be required in Maryland, but we are going to have you do a couple of ride-alongs so you can get comfortable and you can feel at ease with the clients. I think that's a big part of being a home inspector. Practice your driveway presentation. Practice with your wife, your girlfriend, your son, your daughter. Practice, practice, practice. And when your phone rings, be ready. You will only get one first impression. Remember what I said about the roof. Have explanations of why you do or don't do things. And don't be nervous. Relax. It's a process, and it will take time to practice and to perfect it. All right. Risk management starts with a phone call. Realtor usually knows the process, and so do the knowledgeable home buyers. They usually require less expectations. Inexperienced home buyers, on the other hand, they need more explanation and will usually ask rudimentary questions right off the bat. Yeah, when somebody calls you, when they start asking you what kind of licensing do you have, are you licensed and insured? A lot of times that already tells me, okay, this is somebody that's new to because the knowledgeable home buyer and the realtor, they already know that you're advertising, you're licensed, you have insurance and all that other good stuff. But remember, an inexperienced home buyer is listening to other inspectors that may not be as good as you, may be better than you, and I hope not. But in case they're getting information from both sides and they're trying to figure out who's telling the truth. Is somebody lying to me? The experienced buyers know you're not lying to them. They know, they're relaxed. They're like, okay, do the home inspection. And they'll know that you're doing a good home inspection or not. And you can look at our reviews. Our reviews are all generic. We don't hire companies to give us reviews. Other people do. I've seen some reviews online that I go, what? So we have a whole gamut of clients. Explain that this is a non-intrusive visual inspection. Usually you do that when they're signing the paperwork. What I do is I do the exterior without the paperwork. It's where you're going to get them to sign it. On the hood of your car, that's just very unprofessional. I do the exterior, the whole grounds with them. They're at ease. You've made jokes. You've made friends. You walk inside, you go to the kitchen, and you go, this is where I trap you into signing my paperwork. And then you smile. And then you go, this is it's a nice convenient countertop to sign the paperwork. And this is where I explain to them, this is a visual inspection. I can't see behind walls. I'm not Superman. I don't have X-ray vision. And explain the standards of practice. If you don't have to go line by line, and it's on our website, so they probably already have looked and seen everything. When they called you, you can tell them to go to the website for more information. Have a link to the standards of practice on your website, of course. Explain the inspection is not a warranty or a guarantee. So that's typically what I tell them. This paperwork, this agreement that you're signing kind of excuses me for making mistakes. I don't want to make mistakes. I'm not going to make mistakes. But if I do, for some odd reason, this just basically covers me so I can be insured. You don't have to say it that way. Just say it in a nice, calm way. I'm explaining it to you so you know what you're trying to do. And the price last, and have a price scheme that is standard. Price last on the phone call. If they ask you right up front, what are you going to do? You're not going to argue with them. But definitely have a standard price scheme. You don't want to be all over the place. I've lost jobs because of that, and I regret it now. But it's a part of the learning curve. Okay, so risk management. Once the client agrees to the inspection, ask if there are other areas of concern that they want you to focus on. So if they need other services, for example, radon. Radon is becoming more and more part of a home inspection. It's like almost everybody gets radon now because radon is prevalent. In Annapolis, Maryland, where our primary office is, we have another one in Florida. Our primary office is in Annapolis, which is loaded with radon. If you go points west of Maryland, like Western Maryland and West Virginia and even Virginia, there's just a lot of radon, and people want to know. And if they're going to be in the basement, their kids are going to be in the basement, you want to know that. And there's a whole class on radon that we'll be putting together. We want you to do that. Well and septic, yes, we offer that. We don't train for that because the authority for that is the rural septic system, blah, blah, blah. I'll get that information to you. I can't remember the name, the acronym for it, but there's an authority for that. You want to go through them. Same with water testing. Water testing goes to the Maryland Department of the Environment. They offer the class, and only they offer the class. So we don't offer that. With nobody else, you go to the Maryland Department of the Environment. They want you to go directly to them so you know how to do it right. Pool and spas, that's a whole different story. I mean, that's something we can teach you. And lead-based paint, again, we have partners that we like to send our people to, and and we will send you to that school to learn that. Mold can be pretty much done over the internet. There's and same with termite. We go to Purdue University for that. They're the authority on termites and underground critters. So we usually do that. It's a web class. There's a lot of learning that you're going to have to do to become a home inspector. You're going to start with the home inspection, and then you're going to go from there. You're going to have our support. We're going to make sure you don't get in trouble. We're going to try to keep you out of trouble, I should say. And then we're going to send you to all the other classes, and you'll learn along the way. You'll feel more and more comfortable. It'll take you a good year or two to get feeling like you're a full-fledged home inspector, and you can say, I'm going out on the road today. All right, next slide. Okay, unless you're working for another firm, a firm that has all this stuff covered for you, you're going to want to get with your insurance agent and confirm what is and what isn't covered as an offered service by you. Radon, check with your state to see if you need a license. In Maryland, you do not, but yes, in California, DC, Florida, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, well, anyway, a whole host of states require. So you just make sure you know who requires and who doesn't. In mold, a license is required in Texas and Louisiana. Termite, a license is required in these states. So in Maryland is one of them. You must be licensed to do termite inspections. And laws change, and so does insurance requirements. So make sure you do your homework and don't do stuff without the proper licensing. Risk management, driveway presentation, and paperwork. Arrive early. Get started while you wait for your clients. This is something that I drill to all my inspectors. If you have a 9 o'clock inspection and a 1 o'clock inspection, get there at 8:30, get there at 12:30. There's a lot you can do between that half hour. Sometimes an hour is better. If I'm training you, I'm going to get there an hour early so I can show you around. But what you want to do is you want to acclimate yourself to the house. You want to know what's going on, what you see. When they show up, you don't want to be fumbling around a house looking for things. You want to know exactly what you're looking at. You're going to want to have information about the heating system, the air conditioner. You're going to want to fly the drone, do the roof. And when they show up, you have that conversation with them out on the curb. You tell them about how nice the neighborhood is. You tell them how nice the house looks. And I found the following on the exterior. That is gold. For some reason, there's an accident on the way there, and there's a backup. You may not be able to make it in time to do the early part of your inspection, but you might get there just in time to be with your client. I've only been late twice, maybe, and it doesn't. I hate it. It makes me look bad. I'm always a half hour early, and all my realtors know it. They show up early. They're like, George will be there. I tell them not to tell the client that because I don't want the client to be there when I'm there. I want to be there before the client. I want the client to show up at the time that we've agreed. So introduce yourself, meet all the players, engage in small talk, write down their names. I have the sheets that you will have as a checklist of all the things that you walk through. And I do it with a sheet. I don't do it with a phone or a tablet or anything. I like talking to my clients and writing down stuff on paper. Then I do the report in the office. But I always write down their names, everybody, even the children. It's just respectful. All right, once again, set expectations about ask for areas of concern. If they're worried about something they saw in the basement when they did their walkthrough, you want to make sure you go to those spots. They might be excited because of the inspection and forget to tell you. All right, so outline what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. If you notice, we're going back over all this stuff because it's important. You must have the agreement signed before the inspection. Again, I wait until I do the kitchen before I do it because it's an easier place to work with. And you don't want to ask for money up front. We don't. we don't like to ask for paperwork up front and all that. We walk around with them, become friendly with them, then we have them sign and at the very end we have them pay. It's very distressing to ask somebody for money up front. I believe. It's my opinion. And these days, everybody pays with Zelle or Venmo. So at the end of it, you give them, you've already given them your card, and you go Zelle it to that phone number, the office number, and that comes directly to us. And it's so much easier for them. There's no 3% agreement. We're starting to charge 3% if they go credit card way, because we think the credit cards are just outrageously priced, and most people, they have to pay for it up front anyway. They can't be putting it on their credit card. Some can, and if they have to, they have to. It's okay. We'll do it. If it's a high-priced inspection, we might absorb it. If it's a return client, we'll absorb it. If they're, first-time home buyers and they don't have a lot of money, we'll absorb it. But we try to get to 3% if we can. So we always send the report via email. And we're going to start putting it on the website so they can become members of the website, and then they can download it from there whenever. We're implementing those technology now, and then that'll be another location for them to look at video if they're interested. So realtors have a lot of agreements for the clients to sign. You only have one, so don't get weak. It's important. Yeah. Don't skip it. You can't skip it. We won't allow you to, and if you work for us. And encourage the client to participate and to ask lots of questions. So, liability. Keep your eyes open. Liability is highest when the client is not present. Why? Because it's only your set of eyes. You might become a little bit lazy or just don't think something is important. I don't care if I'm alone or not. I take the same amount of time. I do the same way. It's just less small talk. I can cover more area and do more. Sometimes I do it in less time because I don't have, a 2.5 hour might take me 2 hours, but I stick to my plan. I don't skim on it because the client's not there. Act like he's there. Okay, so beware of high risk areas such as structural defects, damage. The best thing you can do is document it and ask for an expert to look at it. You don't tell them what you think. You tell them what you see. Okay? Termites, it's a high liability problem, especially around crawl spaces. You get to walk around, you got to crawl around. It's almost nice to have a termite guy who has that type of license and insurance to work alongside of you, and just schedule him for the client and go that route. We only do termites if we're very confident that our inspectors can do it. The roof is a high liability area. You can fall on the roof. Wet basements, general water intrusion and moisture problems. If you see water in a basement, you got to document it. You got to look for it. Shouldn't be any water in a basement at all. And if there's a system, a French drain, and we'll be talking about that later, you'll want to talk about it, and I'll know that's what that the resolution for water intrusion was, a French drain. Cracked heat exchangers in HVAC. It's hard to tell if a heat exchanger is cracked. If you see it, yes. You can test for carbon monoxide. I'd say stay away from that because that's high liability. Ask for servicing. If there's no record of servicing within the last year, then they have to have it serviced. And the servicing guy is the guy that will test for all that. He has the insurance. He has he's qualified. You're just documenting that you did not see anything, that the system worked or whatever. You want to make sure that if it's a gas burning furnace, that there's carbon monoxide detectors in the house. There's a lot that you are going to learn to look out for, and one is going to tell you what the other thing. One thing will lead to another, and it'll become secondhand. But you have to do a lot of home inspections to get there, and you have to have somebody mentor you along the way. All right, personal liability protection, legal structures, sole proprietorship. Partnership, well, sole proprietorship is you work for yourself, and you're allowed to work for yourself. You pay your taxes through yourself, and you're yourself. You want to be licensed. You don't want to use somebody else's name, so you want to make sure you research it, trademark it if you can. Partnership, not my favorite way to work. I'd rather just work for somebody or have somebody work for me. Partnerships tend to, I don't know, they can sour over time. So, but if you have a partner you want to work with, go for it. We're an LLC, and that is a popular choice because the liability is limited, and I can pass all taxes are passed through, and then they go directly to me. I am the owner of the company. So, and then you have a C corporation and an S corporation. And C corporation and S corporations you should talk to your accountant about which way you want to set it up. If you want to be a corporation, corporations have different. LLC is easier because you act like a sole proprietor and not a corporation. A corporation acts like a corporation, and things are different, set up different, and more stringent. And you may not need to go that route, especially when you're small. Now, if you may want to switch to a corporation after being an LLC, and your accountant and your lawyers can help you with that. Personal liability protection. Okay, so general liability insurance is what you're going to have for general. I mean, like you drop a ladder off a roof and it hits somebody's car. If you injure somebody, God forbid you will, you won't, but God forbid you do. Just be very careful what you do. You don't have power tools. You don't have. All you have to do is just be gentle and careful, and you'll be okay. Errors and omissions insurance. It's if somebody sues you or makes a claim against you, that will protect you. They will give you a lawyer to protect yourself. If you have the paperwork signed, if you have general liability insurance, if you have done your homework, you don't miss much, you miss a tiny fraction, you probably will never claim. I have an errors and omissions claim, and that would be a good thing. So you got to have automotive insurance. Of course, that's the law of the land. Workers' compensation, if you need it, if you're working for somebody, they need to have it on you. And the liability and workers' compensation on this type of business is pretty low. And disability insurance, that's an add-on that I don't know that we don't carry it. You can pretty much carry that yourself if you want to. And now we're going to go through all the different insurances types. So I am going to stop this thing right here. Okay, so let's talk about personal liability protection. And this is kind of boring to me, but it's necessary that we figure out what kind of coverage we want to have, and and how to protect yourself and your company and your family for that, for as far as that goes. So claims made in occurrence are two different types of liability insurance. They differ in how they respond to and cover claims. These terms are commonly used in the context of professional liability insurance, such as malpractice insurance for doctors or errors and omissions insurance for professionals, which is us. Choosing between the claims made and occurrence policies depends on various factors, including the nature of the profession, the potential for delayed claims, and the individual preferences of the insured. Claims made policies may have lower initial premiums, but they can become more expensive over time, especially if the insured switches to a different form of coverage or if they need to purchase extended reporting periods. Occurrence policies may have higher initial premiums, but they provide more straightforward and stable coverage over the long term. Now, I'll try to explain this in a way that makes sense to you and it makes sense to me, because to me it almost seems like the same thing, but it really isn't. So the claims made policy coverage triggers the key feature of a claims made policy is that it provides coverage for claims that are made and reported during the policy period. In other words, you have a policy from 2022 to 2024. Anything inside there is claims made. It's covered. Anything outside of that is not covered. Reporting requirement: the insured must report claims to the insurer during the policy period or an extended period thereafter. There's a retroactive date for those policies, which claims made policies often have a retroactive date, which is the date from which the policy will cover claims. Claims arising from incidents that occurred before this date are typically not covered. So there's a little bit of grace period, I guess, after you're no longer covered, that they're willing to cover because you were covered for that job while while you were inspecting that property, but not afterwards, not when the claim was made. Continuous coverage: to maintain continuous coverage, policyholders need to renew their policy each year. Some policies may offer options for extended reporting periods if the insured decides not to renew. And that might be something that, if you decide to get out of the business and not do it anymore, you may want to cover yourself. There's a statute of limitations in every state, and you want to find out what that is. Typically, a year is enough for you to be covered. 2 years would probably be pretty good. An occurrence policy coverage trigger. An occurrence policy provides coverage for incidents that occurred during the policy period, regardless of when the claim is filed. No reporting requirement. There is no need to report claims during the policy period, as long as the covered event happens while the policy is in force. The insured is generally covered, even if the claim is made years later. So somebody said something about, they were worried about something that you did, and you didn't. You don't have to tell your insurance policy, your insurance company. You just have to keep it. Remember that you were covered at that time, and if they come back and they make a claim, then you're still covered. So no retroactive date. Occurrence policies typically do not have a retroactive date. Coverage is based on when the event occurred, not when it is reported. Stability of coverage. Occurrence policies offer a more stable form of coverage, since coverage is determined by when the incident occurred, making it less dependent on continuous renewals. So that's kind of like the long of the short. You want to maintain coverage. An occurrence policy is best. Just keep your policy in force until you're out of business, until you no longer want to do this, or you decide to go with another company, or change jobs, what have you. I hope you understood that. It's something that you may want to just read over and over again, or talk to your insurance company about it. They know more about it than I do. Okay, so now we go into general versus a technical inspection. Okay, so let's talk about general versus technical inspection. EHI training focuses on general inspection, which we use the American Society of Home Inspectors standards of practice. You'll find that pretty much all of them are pretty close to the same, but we use ASHI. Anyway, most states and association standards are written for general inspections. A general inspection is a thorough visual examination of the accessible areas of the structure and operating components of the home. The advantages of a general inspection is the low cost. You're only going to be there 2.5, 3 hours. Then you have some report time. So say 5 hours total. So it's a lot less expensive than going with a technical inspection. The time to complete, again, quick, unbiased opinion. We're not getting into the weeds and saying the heating system needs a motor or a motherboard or what have you. We're just turning it on and it's working or not working. So that's pretty much what a general inspection does. The disadvantages, of course, is that it's not as exhaustive as a technical inspection. A technical inspection is an exhaustive inspection of each component of the building by a certified licensed individual. You may need to hire an electrician, an HVAC contractor, a plumber, a roofer, or even a structural engineer. The advantage is it's in-depth and is exhaustive. It provides the client with detailed information about the individual components, structure, and their condition. It might be that, guy's buying a house on the Chesapeake Bay. It's going to be a $12 million house. You may not want to have a general inspection for a $12 million home. When you're paying that kind of money out, you probably can afford to have an exhaustive inspection, a technical inspection, and it'll give you a much clearer picture of what you're buying and what kind of money you're going to have to fork out in the future. And it might have a peer. So you may have a peer technician, contractor come out. So that's the difference between the two. And the disadvantages, of course, time needed to complete. The cost could be in the thousands. And it is a bias and potential conflict of interest for work repairs could be a potential conflict of interest for work repairs being recommended. Again, don't be an alarmist. Keep everything in perspective. Report them both good and bad. All my reports, and you will see them, I take pictures of the entire home. Some pictures have bad things. Some pictures don't have anything written on them. But it gives you an overall view of the house. We get a lot of compliments because of that. They are like, wow, I was able to show this to my parents, and they saw what the house looked like. They're in another state. Some reporting that we shied away from showed nothing but the problems. It was short and easy, very technical, and kind of an alarmist type of inspection report. And I think that we have better success with ours. So be consistent, report the same way with the same emotion, always be objective. We were talking before, subjective and objective. I always get those two backwards. No house is perfect. Don't microanalyze. That leads to subjective reporting. It's no longer objective, and it is serving its intended purpose. Is it safe? Could it lead to a liability or issue for the client? Okay, so you'll notice that we are going pretty fast through some of this stuff because we've touched on it already, and we will touch on it again. We're past the 20 slides, so we're ahead of the game in the 2-hour timetable for this webinar, which will give us a lot more time later to speak about the nuts and bolts, which I think are equally as important, and sometimes a little bit more difficult to grasp. And I think you'll have a lot of questions there. So let's move on to the next one. Dress for success. This is a professional. Dress like a professional. It's okay to have a pullover. You don't have to have a suit and tie. Don't want you to. But we have logos that we brand our clothing, and everybody that works for us uses branded logos on their clothing. We have hats also, and remember, you're being paid as a consultant, not a technician. You're charging $100 to $20 an hour. So dress like it. Talk like you get paid to do it. In other words, refine your conversation with the client. You'll notice that I'm being really loose right now with some of the things that I'm saying, because this is a long class and I'm teaching, and it's a little different. But when I speak with a client, I slow down my thought process, and then I try to listen and speak to them in the manner that you would want a professional to speak to you. Even when marketing, dress for success. Dress like a professional. Shirt and tie, or polo and khakis. Shirt and tie is not necessary. Again, like I said before, when you're doing inspections. If you want to do it when you're knocking on their office door, It makes you look better. No reason not to. Polo and khakis are just fine. Even jeans, I mean, but just be very, just dress well. Good hygiene, haircut. I just had my haircut yesterday. Clean fingernails and smell good, but don't overdo it. Yeah, no cologne, please. First impressions will increase your chances of gaining access to realtors. And realtors are the ones that will make you or break you sometimes because they want to work with professionals. They want to know that you know what you're doing and that you're going to handle the house properly. So that starts from the moment you meet them. So these are items that you may want to consider bringing to an inspection. An extra pair of shoes, booties, or shoe covers. I carry all that. A couple of umbrellas. Yes, I have umbrellas for my clients. Drop cloth. I carry two 10 by 10 tarps. A small vacuum and cleaning towels. I don't carry a small vacuum, but I do carry cleaning towels. Gloves, work, and latex types. I have those. Have a hard hat that has the Ravens logo on it. Sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. But hey, I'm a Ravens fan. Respirator and dust masks, a must. Safety glasses, a must. I have a little plastic container that came from Home Depot that had nails in it. One of those plastic totes. Well, it's cleaned out. I have masks in there and I have my safety glasses in there. You don't want your safety glasses all scratched up. Coverall, tie-back suit. Believe it or not, I get dirty a lot. I'll go in the crawl space without the tie-back suit, and sometimes I come out going, man, I wish I'd have wore it. But it's up to you. If you have a second job, you want to stay clean. But if you have change of clothing, another shirt, that will go a long ways. We're looking good for the second job, and that's the last thing there, change of clothes. Okay, so I'm going to drop out of the screen. It's just a slide right now, and I was going to stop there. But we have 45 minutes left to go on this, and I just don't want to. I want to stick to our timeline if we can, and just look forward. And I think we're going to go all the way until the agreement starts. Once we'll talk about the agreement on the next class, but for right now, let's stick with stay on point. Okay, so what types of structures are you going to inspect? Much of your work and focus of this class is for inspecting single-family dwellings. Remember, general inspections, not exhaustive. So general inspections of single-family dwellings. That is your job description. Every house is different. We have Cape Cods. You may want to put a little booklet, a little thing together. Well, in the handout, and later on you'll see some of this, but you'll want to know which type of houses you are inspecting. Cape Cods are usually, how do I explain this? 1.5 stories, maybe 2 stories, but the second story is on the roof. They have dormers, and typically you come in through the side of the house. The house is sideways like a rancher. Colonials are 2-story colonials. We kind of all know what they are. Ranchers are 1-story, long house. Mid-century moderns, I kind of tend to like them. They have a lot of glass, and it's like a contemporary almost. And obviously, there's many other types. Commercial inspections will be another class that we'll be teaching later, and you can join that class at a later date. So you're looking for the same things in every house: the roof, the siding, type of windows. Is the lawn pitched towards the house, away from the house? House drainage? Is the basement wet? Almost everything that you look for in one house, you'll look for it in every house. You will become proficient on housing single-family dwellings, and then you'll become very successful. All right, remember who the client is: the buyer or the seller of the house, a condo, etc. So you might be working for the buyer. He's looking to not pay for something that's not going to work for him, or an unsafe house, or, a number of things. A roof that needs to get replaced right away. The seller of a house, on the other hand, may want to know ahead of time what he's going to disclaim, or he wants to fix it ahead of time. if you want to say the roof is not included because you found out that the roof needs to be replaced right away by the inspector, then you can post that in there, and then you're disclosing, and you're not trying to cheat the other party. That is typically why we work for sellers. Some of them will fix every single thing. I've seen it, and it's pretty awesome. Some of them just want to disclaim it and move on. And condos are just like houses. They're a little different. We'll talk about that at a later date also. You don't worry so much about certain items, common items, but I say worry about everything until you don't have to worry about it. So if a condo is on the top floor, they're under the roof. So the roof is going to be fixed by the condo community. But if the roof needs to be replaced now, I want that client to know that the roof over top of them is in need of replacement, and maybe they need to go to the association and find out when that roof is going to be replaced, and also if they have enough money for replacing it. That's something that's the last couple of years has become very important, especially with the building that fell down in Miami, in Florida. They've passed laws that condo communities have to have enough money in reserve to fix all the items in the community. And it has changed the way they do business. All right, so professional associations, back to that. ASHI, NAHI, NACHI, or other state associations. Benefits of joining an association. It allows you access and use of the association standards. It provides a code of ethics, provides educational opportunities. For example, anytime you join an association, their classes are usually included in the price. So you can do webinars whenever you want, and then you get credit for that. If you ever get audited by the state, you can say, look, I took all these classes, and you can do a printout of the classes that you've taken because they keep track of it for you. Provides credibility. Some of them give you logos to put on your site to let them know that you've completed certain hurdles that make you a better inspector. And it shows that you're committed to the industry by promoting associations just like the realtors do. Let's see. So what are the standards of practice? The standards of practice are a written set of recognized standards regarding the scope of a home inspection. Take time after this first seminar, a webinar, whatever you want to call it. Get on our website, everydayhomeinspections.com, and go to the standards of practice. Those are the ASHI standards, and read them, and then you'll understand why they're so important, because they give you a guideline of what you're going to inspect, but it also gives you guidelines of what you're not going to inspect. There's things that you really have no control over, and if you can't see them, you can't determine what they are. So it kind of keeps you out of trouble, and it also gives them a minimum of what you're going to do. And remember, it's a minimum. You can do more. Just be careful when you do it. Make sure you know what you're talking about. It provides customers with inspection guidelines. It describes certain terms and definitions relating to a home inspection. It helps reduce the inspector's exposure to liability. And the standards may be specific to your state and are readily available by the licensing entity or may be from one of the associations. Maryland has theirs. I can't remember the code right now. Comar, I'll have to look that up to remember. But yeah, they have their own. Very similar to ASHI's. I think ASHI's are better, and you'll do fine with both. If for some reason you get in trouble and you want to revert back to the Maryland one because it has less standards, then by all means do that. Here we go, talking about that. So Maryland has standards of practice which are in line with ASHI and other association standards of practice. ASHI was established in 1976. Membership to ASHI is voluntary, as it is for any other industry association. The goal of these groups is to promote excellence within the profession and the continual improvement of its members. They stay on top of changes in the industry. They don't always stay on top of new codes, and because they're going to be reactive, not proactive, if that makes sense. You may want to pay attention to the codes as they exist in your state. Let me use an example. For example, decks. I provide, it should be part of your handout, a deck construction guide as presented by the State of Maryland Department of Permits, Licensing and Permits. Not licensing, permits. And it tells you what components and how to build a deck. Now you carry that with you. You're not quoting code, but if somebody asks you, how high is the railing supposed to be on a deck? You just pull that piece of paper out and read it. The other thing is that some decks fell years ago and people were under them and they got hurt. So they enforce different types of brackets that are made by the TICO Corporation that hold a deck to the house. There's a lot of different things that you want to know. Now you're not quoting code, you're quoting safety, and safety code is basically created for safety. So when you're saying, there needs to be a beam up against the house because the deck is attached to an overhang, and I think now they pretty much want a second beam against the house anyway. You're quoting it because you want to promote safety. The purpose of the ASHI standards of practice is to establish a minimum of uniform standards for home inspectors. Maryland has its own and similar set of standards that can be found at dsd.maryland.gov in searching for home inspector regulations. Remember that the state standards supersede any association standard. Home inspections performed to these standards of practice are intended to provide the client with objective information regarding the condition of the systems and the components of the home as inspected at the time of the home inspection. Any redundancy in the description, limitations, and exclusions are provided for emphasis, as all is very important. Just like here, when we repeat things, it's because we want you to know them. Okay, back to emphasis. The inspector shall adhere to the Code of Ethics of the American Society of Home Inspectors and the Code of Ethics of the state they're working in. Really, you need to adhere to the state Code of Ethics of the state, or whichever society or any association you belong to, because the association wants you agree to adhere to their standards. By law, really, you need to stay with the state Code of Ethics if they have one. Maryland has one, so that's the one you're going to go to. But the American Society of Home Inspectors is also, I would adhere to that. Either one of them will be fine. If you go to NASHI or InterNASHI or one of those, just make sure you go to theirs and read theirs and stick to theirs. They should all be pretty much the same. So the inspector will inspect all readily accessible, visually observable, installed systems and components listed in the standards of practice. And we're going to go down the list. Report on those systems and components inspected that, in the professional judgment of the inspector, are not functioning properly, are significantly deficient, unsafe, or near the end of their service life. So you're going to report a railing that's missing from a deck, and somebody can just fall right off of it. You're going to report pickets that are too far apart. You're going to report on wiring that's left open and a kid could touch it, or anybody can touch it, or it can cause a fire. Those are going to go on their safety items. You're also going to go and report on things that may need to be replaced within the next 5 years. Say a water heater is 18 years old and it was only meant to last 12 years. You're going to say this, the water heater is operable, but it may need to be replaced within the next 5 years or sooner. Now, if it's operable, it's probably not going to get replaced, or the seller's going to say, no, I'm not replacing it, it's working. And realtors usually stick to that standard. That's fine. At least you instructed the buyer that they're going to have to spend some money. And sometimes they should do it before before it breaks. Items not functioning, heating system that's not operational, microwave that doesn't work, or arcs when you turn it on. Just things like that will all be reported, and they will all have their location in the summary page. And you'll work with all that during this class. So report recommendations to correct or to monitor for future correction. So if something is broken, you want to correct it. If there's no servicing records for the heating system, you want that corrected. If something is about to break, you're going to want to say, monitor for future correction. Or a place where usually I find that monitor is the area way into a basement that has a drain at the bottom of it, and it can fill up with leaves. I'll put it on the report. Monitor entrance to the basement for clogs, which can cause the basement to flood. And that's something that's very important. Now, the inspector is not required to determine the methods, the materials, or cost of correction. They will ask you. They always will ask, what do you think this costs? Now, if you have an idea on what it costs, give them a broad range, say between $100 and $5,000. And they'll go, oh, then you don't really know. You go, yeah, I don't do that every day. So if you just replaced, a roof in your house, or how much a roof costs to replace, and you might want to give them an idea, like, a square of shingles is $500-$600 to replace. Multiply that times the size of the house, you can come up with a range. But stay away from advising on methods and costs unless you are 100% sure, which is unlikely. I was a general contractor for a long time. I do consulting. So in my consulting capacity, I look up pricing. In the 2 or 3K consulting, I look up pricing. So I kind of tend to know more than others. So exclusions. Inspectors are not required to determine the presence of any environmental hazards, including but not limited to toxins, carcinogens. Oh, wow, it's a hard word for me to say. Noise and contaminants in soil, water, and air. Unless you're hired to examine those, if you got hired to do the lead testing on the soils around the house, if you got hired to do the water testing or the air sampling, then you do, but you're not required. The effectiveness of any system installed or method utilized to control or remove suspected hazardous substances. So there's a leaky oil tank on the ground. They ask you, how effective is it going to be to have the tank removed? Will there be oil left in the ground? Sorry, can't answer that. You'll have to hire an expert to tell you that. And then, and then they'll be surprised on how expensive that is. You're not required to talk about operating costs of systems or components. How much is this unit, electrical or furnace, going to burn me a month? They are allowed to ask the utility companies for the last 12 months of receipts. So there is ways for them to know what things cost. And usually they'll refer them to their realtor to help them through that. Okay, acoustical properties of any system or component. Again, you're not an expert. Stay away from quoting on things like that. Soil conditions relating to geotechnical or hydrologic specialties. And I just had geotechnical report done, and that takes a specialized engineer. They bore holes in the ground, and they determine the supporting capacity of soil. Very, very specialized field. Stay away from it. Don't say you can build a house here unless you know. Okay. General exclusion. Inspectors are not required to offer or perform any act or service that is contrary to the law. Perform any engineering service like the geotechnical, or perform any trade or service other than the home inspection. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you don't work on their stuff. It's very tempting if you come from being a carpenter and now you have all these people that are like needing carpentry work and you're doing it on the weekends. You're not going to be licensed for long. You're going to be sued. You're going to be in trouble. Don't recommend other people. I mean, unless you really know who they are. I tend to recommend on my consulting capacity, and it's because I know some of the people that I work with. I don't get a penny from them. I don't want any money from them, and I'd be careful to recommend to anyone, because if they fail, if they do a bad job, it reflects on you, and the review might be against you and them. So don't offer any warranties or guarantees of any kind. Inspectors are not required to operate any systems or components that is shut off, shut down, or otherwise inoperable. If they have the main breaker to the heating system off, leave it off. Don't turn it on and then run the system and then turn it back off. They might come back to you and say you broke it because they had it off. They were waiting for a service technician. What you write is it's not working. The switch to it is off. Or just not working. You don't even have to, even if you miss the switch, it's not working. It needs to be looked at by a professional, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's right." I'll tell you some stories during our Zoom class, our live Zoom classes, of scary things that have happened over the years, and not my fault, but things can happen, and you want to make sure that they don't happen to you. So you're not required to operate any system or component that does not respond to normal operating controls. Shut-off valves are manual stop valves. Do not turn off valves and turn them on. The only things that you will operate are the on and off faucets, the shower faucet, the sink faucet, switches, electrical switches on and off, and the outside hose bib, you'll operate that. Other valves, like the main shut off to the house, if you go to turn that and it breaks and it starts leaking water on the house, you're in a lot of trouble. And you're going to be the one that they're going to blame for doing that. So just stay away from valves. Operate only the things that are readily available that a person will use every day. Okay, we got general exclusions again, and we're going to keep going. We have 20 minutes left on this class, and just imagine, I did this class in, I think I forget. It was like maybe 10 days, 7, or I don't know. It was a lot of hours. It was grueling. But anyway, I think that we can do this general exclusions and finish out the class with these next 3 or 4 slides. Okay, inspectors are not required to enter any area that will, in your opinion, likely be dangerous to the inspector or other persons, or damage the property or its systems or components. Don't force a door open. Don't go into a crawl space that's too low. There's minimums that you're not required to do anything that you find is dangerous. If there's wires hanging in the crawl space and it's wet, stay away from that. Document it, have it repaired, and then they can have you come back if they want. But who wants to go into a crawl space with wires hanging all down and the floor's wet? So underfloor crawl spaces or attics that are not readily accessible. Some attics have, like especially in Cape Cods, they'll have that little bit at the peak that has no way for you to look up there and see if everything's okay. Call it out and say you couldn't get to it. Maybe they should go ahead and add a access. Inspectors are not required to inspect underground items, including but not limited to underground storage tanks or other underground indications of their presence, whether abandoned or inactive or active. So if you see an underground tank, just call it out and let them know that they should be looked at by a professional. And, you could have that conversation with them. It could be leaking. They can ask the seller if everything's okay. When was it installed? Who's the person that's checked it last? You're not required to inspect items that are not installed, obviously. If there's a light missing from a bulb missing, you can say it's not working because it's not installed. Yeah, you can go get another one from somewhere else and move it over. If there's a lot of them, it could add a lot of time to your inspection when you can just call them all out. There's a method for them to ask for that to be repaired, and during their walkthrough, they can confirm that the lights are all working and or that the screens were installed correctly. Because if there's no screens installed, I call it no screens installed. You might see them in the garage, and the realtor will go, "Whoa, they're in the garage. They're here." I can't confirm that they're the right one for this house, so I'm saying that it doesn't work. Again, they can install it, and it can be confirmed during the walkthrough, or they can hire you to come back and do a follow-up inspection, which we do often for a fraction of the cost, but they pay you for your time to come by and check off all those items that they agreed to replace. You don't have to inspect decorative items in areas that are not entered. Again, you can't go into a crawl space. You can't check it. You can't inspect it. Detached structures other than garages and carports. So, sheds, kids, children's play sets. I usually do disclaimers for those. Disclaimers will never get you in trouble. They'll keep you out of trouble. And common elements or common areas in multi-unit housing, such as condominiums, properties, and cooperative housing. Again, I call the roof if I see that it's in bad condition. It's not the seller's problem, but the seller is part of the community. And the community, the buyer is buying into that community. So there's a little bit of, question right there. If the parking lot's not well taken care of, these are red flags that, the buyers should be looking at. Maybe all of it is getting ready to be fixed, and great for that. Maybe they don't have the money to fix it. And, usually a realtor will already know that if they know the community in the area, they'll just, they'll know not to take a client to a place that's not going to be well taken care of. Okay, more general exclusions. Inspectors are now required to, and all this will be in your quiz. So get ready, go back, read through your booklet all the way up to these last general exclusion slides, and this will be part of your quiz. Okay, so inspectors are not required to perform any procedure or operation that will, in the opinion of the inspector, likely to be dangerous to the inspector or other persons or damage to the property or its systems or components. Like, for example, turn on a breaker that's off. Don't do it. If there's a wire loose under the sink to the garbage disposal, maybe you don't run the garbage disposal. And, if there's wires hanging from a light fixture, don't turn the switch on the wall. Stay away from anything that creates trouble. You're not required to describe or report on any system or component that is not included in the standards and was not inspected. You're not required to move personal furniture, property, furniture, equipment, plants, soil. Yeah, you don't want to be moving. Some houses are full of debris. Call it out. Have them clean it out. And then that's one of the times when you'll come back to reinspect, or they will reinspect themselves when they do the walkthrough and the place has been cleared out. If it's being sold as is with all that debris in there, then you want to let them know that it could be issues under. There was a time I moved a mattress in the basement, and there was mold behind it. I don't know if they were hiding it, but sure there was a mold right behind it, and I think they were doing it on purpose. But I can't, we're not in the business of accusing people. No, it doesn't serve anything. It doesn't serve anything. You found it. Kudos on you. Move on. Okay, so dismantle any system or component except as explicitly required by the standards of practice. All right, so I guess we'll stop here. Your homework tonight is to read the ASHI Standards of Practice, the Code of Ethics and Definitions. Your entire career will depend on you knowing these terms. They can be found at the following, they're found here. Sorry, a lot of talking. Okay, so there's the website. Understand, learn, and depend on the standards of practice. And this is the end of this module. Next, we will begin the report writing segment. So it looks like we're ending in just where we're supposed to be ending. Say hi to Cody. This is my German Shepherd. He's my buddy. He's almost 3 years old. And he will come around from time to time and say hello. He wants me to go outside and throw the Frisbee. Anyway, so we've done an hour and 45 minutes of class. We jammed a lot of information in this hour and 45 minutes. I will, I will just say that it ended in a pretty good spot. I didn't realize I had it that well set up that it was going to stop there. And it was an hour and 45 minutes. I would have liked to have gotten another 15 minutes, but you probably want to go have a beer or something. Anyway, thanks for sticking through with it. And do your homework, and then come back, and then we'll do the quiz. I guess the quiz will be your other 15 minutes for this this class. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again. Thanks.